All right, so today I wanted to make a special video about my big problems with the left, I guess would be a good way of putting it. Now, I will preface this by saying that the right is guilty of all of these problems as well, but I would say not to the same extent, and a lot of the times not nearly to the same extent. Um, and I think this is a pretty much definitive thing that one could bring up when debating politics with people that I think pretty much thoroughly debunks the leftist narrative. Now, that not necessarily that they're completely wrong, but again, I mean, it'll be easier to explain it when I get into it. But these are kind of my three main things that I think kind of definitively prove the leftist narrative wrong. So, getting right into it, the first one being is no self-respect. Now, this may be personally or for other people. Now, I mean, if you give some examples of this, some big ones would be you have the left claiming, oh, people need taxpayer subsidized health care because if they don't, they're going to die, right? I mean, you take the other example, in the States, oh, we can't have voter ID because black people are too stupid to get an ID. No, that's not my opinion, but that's the left's opinion. I mean, I believe that they're perfectly capable, but again, that's what the left says is that, oh, they're not, that's basically what the left says. I'm not going to repeat it, but um, again, so they have no self-respect. They genuinely believe that there's a massive group of people within the population that are so unintelligent that if it wasn't for government continue giving them free this, free that, free this, free that, like endless amounts almost, that they would be homeless, right? Like that's what they believe. But again, that comes from a point of view of having no self-respect or of giving people no self-respect. Now, when it comes right down to it, they'll say, "Oh, you think there's nobody?" Like, no, I've always said that I do believe there's some people that genuinely fall on hard times, some people that just can't catch a break. That is definitely true. But the majority of people on welfare, I believe the numbers are probably like 70, 80%, are there because either one, the government has just basically forced them into it, right? And that's there's many areas, especially if you're like a single mom with kids, is a perfect example, that if you qualify for welfare benefits, you're making more money than you would be earning minimum wage. I think it's like 35 states that it's like that, and then that number's growing all the time. So again, these people are poor not because they necessarily want to be, just because if they were to get a job, well, all of a sudden they probably lose most of, if not all, their welfare benefits. So not only would they need to get a job, but they need to be getting a job making like 25, 30 bucks an hour before they actually would recoup the loss of the welfare benefits, right? So that's another example of it, that the government just has policies that incentivize people to be in those positions. Because again, the majority of people that are very poor are not poor because they've genuinely fallen on hard times. They're poor because the government has policies that encourage said behavior. And because this kind of stuff, a lot of times it's usually genetic. There's obviously some exceptions, but it's usually genetic, which is why you see in the States, especially, these, generations of people that are living in these, rundown neighborhoods in the Section 8 housing and that kind of stuff. It's because it's genetic, right? Like you grow up seeing, number one, I mean, you grow up seeing, no dad in the house, so neither the male or the female kids value the value of sticking around, or of picking a good person to have a relationship with, right? Because all your genes recognize is that's what the past people were successful by doing, so that's what they're most likely to replicate. And they also see, hey, you don't have to work, all you have to do is be dependent upon the government. So again, that's just another example of it. But again, the main point being is that people on the right are a lot more likely to just let me do it. Let me. And here's the other thing. This is one of the main arguments the left will bring up to try and debunk that. It's, oh, you conservatives and right wingers, you take the free health care. And well, yeah, because the vast majority of us don't have the money to pay out of pocket. We're being like, because we're already being taxed the money, we are paying for it through, and not to mention too, conservatives are more likely to pay disproportionately more because they're obviously more likely to work and more likely to earn more money. So again, if you didn't steal our money from us, well, yeah, we would have money to pay for healthcare, but because most people don't have enough, they're not earning enough money to just pay double for their healthcare. They have to. They have no other option. Like, I mean, it's the classic, you know, come up behind someone with a baseball bat and break their leg and give them a cane and be like, oh yeah, you love our canes now. No, we only have it because you forced us into the position. So again, that's such a terrible argument. It's not even funny, but that's one of the main things they come up with. But anyway, the next thing to bring up is they don't even believe their own ideas. And again, do they? I think you could say in a way, but I mean a good example. I mean there's two good examples that come to off the top of my head, because I don't have notes for any of this kind of stuff. I'm just talking off the top of my head. The first one being the Californias and New Yorks of the world. These are the worst states right now. They are literally collapsing before people's eyes. People are moving out of them in mass. But is everybody from these states going to stop voting Democrat? Well, no, they're not. The vast majority of them aren't. Some of them will probably flip independent or Republican, but the vast majority of them won't. Like you look at the fact, like Texas has been slowly moving Democrat, every single election cycle for like the last 20 years. And they're going to be Democrat within the next 10 years, maybe slightly more, but most likely 2024 or 2028, Texas will swing Democrat. I mean, for two reasons: because mass immigration, because so many people from California are moving there, right? So again, if they actually believe their own ideas, they wouldn't be moving out in mass. I mean, if these leftists actually believed in their own ideas, they would be moving into California. I mean, especially the ones and New York. If you were a leftist in, the Midwest or the South or, anywhere but there, you would move to one of these further left states. But they don't. I mean, you take Alberta, for example. All these leftists, they complain day and night about Alberta. Oh, we're a bunch of racists. We don't tax the rich. We love our corporations and all. But why don't they move? Like, why don't they move? They claim to hate it so much. The reason they don't move is because where are you going to move? You're going to move to the GTA, you're going to move to Vancouver. Your cost of living is going to go through the roof, right? So again, they don't actually believe their own ideas. They just want to exploit the working class, right? That's the reality of these further. They love to talk about exploitation all day, when in reality it's just projection. It's just pure projection. And again, like they don't care about the exploitation that's going on right now from the whole lockdowns and all this garbage. Why? Because the lockdowns mean more big government, so they love it, right? They don't care the rich have gotten way richer because of the lockdowns that they supported. No, they don't care. They'll talk about how bad of a thing it is, but it's funny, they never admit that it's because policies they supported. Again, if they actually believe their own ideas, they would, like all these leftists in Alberta, they would be moving to Ontario, basically anywhere but Alberta or Saskatchewan. But they don't, because they don't actually believe their own ideas. They want to pretend like they're all high and mighty and get on their moral high horse. But when push comes to shove, like you say, when push comes to shove, pretty much everyone's a libertarian, right? When it comes to people's own money, then they're a libertarian. But when it comes to other people's money, then they're bleeding heart socialists, right? Like, again, it's just hypocrisy knows no bounds with these people. The next thing and the last thing is, again, never admit they're wrong. This is one that's kind of tied into the last one, but by this one I mean, and here's the other big thing to bring up with the last one that I brought up before, but I probably may have some new people listening, is that if leftists outside of Alberta and Saskatchewan actually believe what they believed, they would be the strongest supporters of Wexit, right? Like, they would be stringent Wexit supporters. Now, why is that? Because again, if they actually want left-wing policy in Canada, the only thing holding it back, the vast majority of opposition is coming out of Alberta and Saskatchewan. If Alberta and Saskatchewan were to leave, then Canada would be a socialist country overnight. Right? Like, no, but they don't believe it because they don't actually believe what they believe. They know that to have a socialist country, you need to have a group of people that pay massively more into the system than they get out to make it work. And then it will never work long term, because eventually that area collapses too, and then the whole thing collapses. But that's why, I think that's one of the main things, is that they don't actually believe what they believe. Because again, if they did, they would be the strongest supporters of Wexit. I mean, you have a movement right now that's growing a little bit in California and Oregon and these areas, you know, these far left areas in the States, about how if Trump wins again, we're going to succeed. And I see Republican, you know, pages, or, you know, even just run of the mill conservative pages on social media all the time. I see, yeah, we'd love that. You know, they always talk about the border wall, how they can build it up the West Coast and get rid of these you know, the Californias, the Oregons, and the Washingtons. That, like, they always joke about that. Does the left do that? Because no, they don't actually believe what they believe. Like, it's just pure insanity. Now, never admit they're wrong. This is, like I say, this is one that they're kind of tied into the last one. And that, I mean, you look at California, right? Like, they have the highest taxes. I mean, you look at New York as well. If you live in the city of New York, you have effectively the highest tax rate that literally exists in the whole country, I believe, because New York City is the only city, I believe, that has its own tax, right? Like, it doesn't have, like, there's no other city that has a direct income tax, I guess is a better way of putting it. New York City has that. So again, you have city taxes, you have state taxes, and you have federal, all just income taxes, right? That's not all the other taxes. So again, they have the most taxes. Again, all these lefties saying, "Oh, the only thing stopping us from having a UBI or free healthcare is more taxes," basically. Well, New York has it. Why aren't they giving away everything for free? Well, why? Because it doesn't work. Tons of the higher income people are moving out because they're tired of the BS regulations and high taxes. But do these leftists, are they saying, yeah, guys, we kind of got that one right? You know, we should have moderately high taxes, but there is a point to where it becomes too high. No, they never say that. You have these lefties in New York that they're literally calling for it. Raise taxes on the rich to recoup our massive losses from the rich leaving. Like, they are so ignorant and so stupid, they will never admit they're wrong. And this is one of the main reasons also why I can never take them seriously. So anyway, those are the big three reasons. If you liked the video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you follow me on Twitter especially, but also BitChute and Parler as backups to YouTube and Twitter. So anyway, if you liked the video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe like I said, and stay tuned for more.